We're in Sri Lanka. It's Sri Lanka hosting South Africa for a test match series of 2 matches. And the hope is that these matches will be exciting. Thank you for joining us and welcome to it. We're in the teardrop aisle and we expect really good cricket from these 2 sides. South Africa, the last time that they came here, particularly to Galle, they managed to win, and Sri Lanka will want to turn that around. Right, a couple of gentlemen alongside me, and I'll start with the home boy rather than with the guest. Russell Arnold, nice to see you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and initially welcome, guys. Welcome to
Thank
Paradise.
you very much. Yeah, nice to be here once again.
Yeah,
nice to be here once again.
And as you said, looking forward to the cricket. I think Sri Lanka will be a different kettle of fish to what you'd seen them to be in South Africa, and the confidence is a little high in the way they've been playing of late. Yes, results haven't been great, but the type of cricket they've been playing has been a lot better and a little bit more exciting.
I guess a good thing as well that they've just been playing cricket because they've just come back from the West Indies.
Yes, they have to keep working on it. A lot more to improve on, but this is the ideal place to start with, and a great opposition. South Africa very, very strong and show a lot of resolve, especially in tough conditions.
Sean Pollock, how are you?
All right, you pumps?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. What's the winter brought for you? It's still winter in South Africa, I know, but have you been up to anything?
Not too much, just a little bit of daddy daycare, a couple of car trips with the kids in hand.
I thought you were going to talk about, you know, setting rules and laws for the game and so forth with the cricket committee.
We've done a little bit of that too, but that's
but
nothing to really write home about.
They're all on holiday.
Yeah.
Life's too good for me.
Life's too good for him, quite clearly. Sean, your expectation as you look at this tour, and I mentioned right up at the front that South Africa came here and won the last time around, won here in Galle. What does that do as it sets up the tour?
Yeah, it's a massive challenge for South Africa coming to conditions like this, and historically it always comes on the back of an off-season. Invariably, this is the time of year that you tend to tour Sri Lanka, and you go down the route of coming out of an off-season, having to work on your game in South African conditions, and then hopefully you've got enough time to prepare. Some of the South Africans have been playing county cricket, which stands them in good stead for this test series, but it's always a massive challenge to try and beat Sri Lanka in their own country. I think the Sri Lankan side probably not as strong as the teams that they've played in years gone by, particularly in the batting department. You don't look at that lineup and say to yourself, well, there's hundreds coming there. And good for Sri Lanka to have the strength of Herath back into their mix, because that's also an opportunity for them to pick up those 20 wickets to win the test. So it'll be a challenge. South Africa also historically in the last tour that they went to India weren't very good against the spin bowling, so hopefully they've got a better game plan in place for this series.
Okay, so let's see what is coming up as far as the tour is concerned and exactly where these 2 sides will play. The 2 test matches, that's all there is in the way of test matches. It generally is the way between South Africa and Sri Lanka when the tour is here. 2 test matches, Galle and in Colombo. And then there's 5 one-day internationals and a solitary 2020 international to finish things off. Many things to look at when you think about this ground particularly. And Russell, talk spin because he mentions it, Sean Pollock, and the strength of Sri Lanka's spin.
There's a lot of experience, there's variety, and they know to use these conditions. But the key, though, Pommy, for visiting teams is not to look for demons. Sometimes they just aren't there. These are slow-turning wickets. Teams tend to think these are dirty turners and tend to play such a game. Now, you mentioned the win for South Africa. We've seen teams beat Sri Lanka out here, and they've done it with seam, with the sea on 3 sides. There's a lot of breeze, and teams that like to use the seam, just get that ball to float around, have done well. The South African win was on the back of seamers getting wickets. So Pakistan beat us here. That was with Wasim and Waqar, and you know what they'll do with it in the air. So there is still opportunity. It's about staying in the moment and playing rather than totally focusing on history. You let yourself go to the 4th, 5th day, that's when the spinners will really take control. So the key is hanging in there, stay in the game, and then let the pressure tell.
And how to get into the game is to get runs first up. That's what's important for South Africa. Sean Pollock talking about the fact that the South African batsmen will be tested. Someone who did well here in that game we're talking about, in a series after 21 years, South Africa managed to win here on the back of the victory in Galle. Dean Elgar got some runs.
Dean, how's the preparation gone for this test match?
So far it's been very good. We came to Sri Lanka a lot earlier than usual. just to try and acclimatise. Obviously, the weather back home is cold and nice and chilly, and in Sri Lanka is very hot and humid. So it was nice to come here and acclimatise firstly, and then try and get used to the conditions of the wicket. So far the preparation's been very good. We had about 5 or 6 days in Colombo before coming to Galle, but yeah, it's been very good for us so far.
Then just also you managed to score 100 in your last test match in Galle, so that's very good memories. Can you tell us what does that mean coming into a test match like this?
It gives you a lot of confidence. The conditions were in favour of us because I know we batted first, which does help in the subcontinent. But yeah, it's nice knowing that you've come to a ground before and you've been successful. But more importantly, us as a side were very successful as well. So yeah, it's a lot of fun memories here in Galle. I love the city. It's unbelievably beautiful, and it's a great tourist spot. So yeah, it's hopefully it can be quite similar come tomorrow.
And also, you've had a lot of success against spin, especially a few intense battles with Nathan Lyon in the past. You come to Sri Lanka, that's what you expect, spin. Can you tell us how you're going to counter that?
Yeah, it's quite a big mental adaptation that you have to do coming here. But firstly, you just got to address it and you got to prepare very well. Yeah, so far it's started in South Africa, actually preparing for the spin. Yeah, and it's gone very well. Yeah, it's the biggest thing is in Sri Lanka. You just got to get over it mentally, and you got to try your best and try and use the conditions to the best of your ability. So we know that there's going to be a lot of spin faced, and yeah, we just have to overcome it.
The last 18 months has been really successful for you, especially if you look at the last 12 months. What has the shift been to be that successful, and how are you going to continue in Sri Lanka?
I don't know, I just think they call that the purple patch. I don't know what it means, but luckily it was on my side for once. So yeah, hopefully I can try and have another good year. It's going to be quite tough, being a lot of foreign tours in the subcontinent this year or this season. But yeah, it's always a great challenge playing for the Proteas and playing in the world's cricket stage, and hopefully I can try and do pretty much the same thing.
Yep, you would like that form to continue. So would South Africa. The rise and rise of Dean Elgar. Speak about him, because I think back to, what was it, 2008-9, the pair to start things off at Perth. Mitchell Johnson, I think it was, and now he's an integral part of this side.
Yeah, he's a massive part, particularly at the top of the order. And I mean, the best place to bat in Sri Lanka when you come to subcontinent conditions will be up front. So they'll be hoping for a really good start from him. And he's definitely gone from strength to strength. He's learned a lot about his game. Whenever he finds out something that he has to work on, he goes away and puts that work in. And he's reaped the rewards of it. So he's been fantastic. And I think now with Markram, obviously the experience of Dean and Markram at the top, hopefully they can knit well and get South Africa to solid starts. Because, I mean, cricket in subcontinent is often slow to start. The first 2 days, 3 days, things go very slowly, and then it speeds up. As Russell said, day 4 and 5, it starts to turn, and teams can get bowled out. Like in South Africa, we might lose 5 or 6 wickets in the first morning. Sri Lanka, at the back end of the test match, where you start to lose your wickets quickly. So it's a very key, important and partnership up front for those two.
Yeah, look, perhaps a time to look at South Africa's squad, to look at the whole squad. And Russ, you can weigh in here, because you'll speak from a perspective of Sri Lanka. Look at that, and they have the points at which they think they're the weaknesses, and that's what we're going at.
Well, you have to strike early, because the moment you get a partnership in, it wears the opposition down. Now, South Africa's middle order is probably where, or the lower middle order is where the Sri Lankans can get in, because there's Amla at the top. Elgar now, he is a force. And then you've got Faf, who know these conditions, who played in the subcontinent a lot of cricket, and they know how to score runs. So that is a real threat. But the moment you're through that, the Sri Lankans will believe that there is a definite opportunity. So even if it's 3 for 200, you never know where it can end up.
Indeed. Number 4, I'm going straight there because Themba Bavuma's name's there. AB de Villiers just retired, so this is the first time they kind of play without him. It feels weird saying that, because in the last couple of years it's been kind of toing and froing. Sean, is that sorted? Also throw in whether it's 6 batsmen or 7 batsmen.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd go for the 7. For me, first up in the test match is a 2-match series. You have to get the runs on the board. And going to Themba, Themba, shame. I mean, he was out of the equation with an injury. Then JP retired, and he got another opportunity, and he was in and out, and whether he was going to play. He did one good innings at the end of the season last year for South Africa. Now AB retires, and that number 4 spot is his. And I think these are the ideal conditions for Temba to try and establish himself in that middle order again. He's back in the mix, he's got some runs, but this is probably where he'll be at his best. He plays spin well, he's a short little guy, he gets his feet moving quite nicely to the spinners. I think the only struggle for him at number 4, he does need to learn how to rotate the strike a little bit better than what he's done in the past, and it's going to be a key element of that middle order. If he allows himself to get bogged down, it's going to build pressure on the rest of the team.
3 fast bowlers.
Yeah, I think they're going to go for the second spinner here. Just looking at those conditions, it looks dry. I think it's going to wear. It's whether they decide to go for a 5-prong attack and, as you say, 6 batsmen, or whether they'll give themselves the luxury of that extra batsman.
That's interesting, because you're going to have to try and balance that. You're going to have 7 batsmen and 3 fast bowlers and 2 spinners all in one side. There are only 11 men. No such difficulties for your side. Russell, first of all, I guess the captain's got to be spoken about, decided that he's going to stay away. He's not going to be here in these 2 test matches, despite the fact that the decision hasn't come from the ICC.
Yeah, but we accepted the fact that the minimum sentence will be dealt out, and that means 2 test matches. It's good to stay away and let the rest of them get on with it rather than the uncertainty. But the Sri Lankans, well, they're used to dealing with uncertainty. They'll just get out there and try.
Are you trying to play victim there or something? So yeah, that statement sounds like you are.
No, that's how it is. There's never a clear run.
Okay, fair enough.
It's just about getting out there and
I'm
doing
more
it.
worried about the fact that he said it's good for him to stay away.
It's not good for him to
Let's
stay.
look for positives.
Okay, so
Yeah.
does that disrupt the side a whole lot? It should, I guess, because the guy's the captain of the team and is experienced, and he would be the leader of the side. Throw in that the coach as well, because he's involved in all of this, would also have to kind of take a step back.
But
What does that do?
If I can add, where do your runs coming from?
Can I answer?
Yes.
Yeah, so the runs, I'll tell you what. The key thing is this is what's happening. So no Chandimal, Hatru Singh is also not going to be able to be involved, but the rest have to get out there and do a job. It's about focusing. It's about making a name for yourself. In Sri Lanka are still looking for new heroes. I've been saying that to you for 2 years. So if they found one, Kusal Mendis is one. So he'll be at number 4, getting runs in difficult conditions. He scores big hundreds and against the run of play. So he's exciting. There's Dhananjay De Silva, who are new players who South Africa haven't really seen. So they're the ones who will have to score these runs. Dimuth Karunaratne is back. He's been very prolific at the top of the order.
Let's talk about the fact that Sri Lanka look to Hera a lot. Now, time's not on his side. Time's not on anybody's side. It doesn't wait for anybody. How much longer for him?
Not too long. He's slowing down the effort through the crease. I don't see it as much, but still he's a threat. The best the Sri Lankans do have. So I would think we have England coming in November and or October and November for 3 tests. I think that's where we might see the last of Rangana Hera.
There have been murmurs, haven't there? He's kind of hinted at that.
Well, he's been taking it series by series, but now he's being a little bit more specific. He's 40 years old, so I would think it's time to move on as well. But for Hera to be an impact here, runs, as we all know, runs on the board.
I think with Herath, obviously Sri Lanka are looking to him, but I think also Keshav Maharaj will be watching him to see what sort of pace he bowls at, what sort of different variations he works with. This is probably the first time we've been waiting for Maharaj, haven't we, to get to the subcontinent.
That's all.
And his record's brilliant for a person who's just played on the more spin, non-friendly surfaces around the world. So this is his opportunity. Hopefully he doesn't allow the pressure to get to himself and say, listen, I've got too much responsibility on my shoulders. He just needs to get out there and perform. Look at those figures. That's an unbelievable performance for a guy who's burst onto the test match arena, averaging 28. And as we say, he's got those 5-wicket holes and hasn't had an experience of a subcontinent surface. This will assist him. I just remember against India, when he played at home, he was a little bit not so confident going into the game because the responsibility was on his shoulders to bowl against a good batting lineup. I think this time that he's going to have to take the responsibility of being the main spin bowler, but he has to just take it on his shoulders and do the job, and I think he can. He's accurate enough.
Yeah, the role is different, and he's got to be accurate, not try too hard. The pressure of trying to make things happen and the pitch doing so much, that's not the way to go.
Yeah.
Rangana Hera keeps it simple. He understands that there's natural variation in the pitch. He lets that happen. I think that's the key.
What's the number? 421, is it, Sean?
Yes.
421. I'm talking Dale Steyn. It's been, what, 3 years? Nearly 3 years. Waiting and waiting. And you've been waiting as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been waiting to see the record go, and it's been a bit of a long haul, but he's back. He's played some county games, and hopefully he gets selected, and he can put that record behind him and then get back to the business of trying to win test matches for South Africa. That's what he does best. He's done it best his whole career, and that's what we're looking forward to. But good to have him back.
Yeah, indeed it is. Right, a lot to look forward to as far as this series is concerned. Thank you for your thoughts for just then, Russell Arnold, as well as Sean Pollock. A break now, and before we go, though, remind you all that DSTV Now, that app on your phone, make sure you've got it, and you can always, on DSTV catch all sorts of things, as well as the FIFA World Cup. Lots going on. Now just the finalists left, and if you're working, if you can't get to it, you can always get it on catch-up. Showmax as well for quite a few shows that we have on SuperSport. Don't go too far away. We'll see you in a bit.
Hi, I'm Marco Andretti. Catch the Verizon IndyCar Series exclusively on SuperSport, your world of champions.
Sri Lanka at home, normally you'd say they're very difficult to beat, but the last time South Africa were here in Galle, they managed to win. So what awaits us, we don't know. We hope, though, that it is exciting. It's good morning as well to Sean Pollock. Sean, your thoughts generally with regard to the sides and who you'd feel has the upper hand as they turn up for this test match?
Yeah, you talk about Sri Lanka in their own conditions, very difficult to beat normally. The batting strength that they've had over the years, probably not as strong as it is now, so we have to wait and see who can come up with some runs for them. They've still got the ability to take the 20 wickets, particularly on surfaces that will probably turn throughout this series. So it will be a challenge for South Africa, who on their last subcontinent tour didn't play spin all that well, so that's something they'll have to improve on. But I think if you had to look at the strengths of the sides, I think Sri Lanka are probably weaker than South Africa would be on paper. South Africa have had some guys playing county cricket, so I expect them to be at a certain standard. But it'll still be a challenge, and good to see Dale Steyn back in the mix.
Yeah, Dale Steyn back in the mix, and many people will be talking about him. You talk about him because of that record that has been looming and has been for a long, long time. Is he fit? Is he fit enough? Is he back at it? He came back fleetingly in that one test match in Cape Town and has been back to county cricket and so forth to try and get himself strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think he needs to get that record and put it behind him and get back to winning test matches for South Africa. And that's what he does best, and that's what's made him such a class bowler around the world, and particularly even on conditions like this, his ability up front to bowl quick and get the ball to shape, his ability to bowl reverse swing, clean up the tail. I think those are strengths. So, yes, it is nice, and he can go past the record. That's important for him. But I think getting him back to the stage where he can win games for South Africa and be a vital part in that five-pronged or four-pronged attack, I think that's the key element for South Africa.
Does he just come back as leader of the pack?
Well, sort of, I think, with all that experience, but I think they're all leaders in their own right. I mean, KG is ranked #1 in the world, so in just that mere fact, he's a leader. Vern has so much experience, and he bowls well up front, so he leads in many ways himself. And then Dale, with his experience and what he's done, I think it's great to have those three in combination.
Okay, well, and as far as leading the pack is concerned, as you said, as a senior player, yes, but what about conditions? What is it that we have as a pitch here in Galle? Let's go and hear that from Russell Arnold.
We're in a beautiful part of the world, in the southern part of Sri Lanka. We are in Galle. The sun's shining, the clouds, they've disappeared. They've been hovering around for a few days. And if you look at the outfield, it's light green in color because the covers have been on for the last couple of days. The pitch, well, the groundsman not stopped him preparing what he usually does here. We have a dry pitch. Hardly any grass, it's even. And it just gives me the impression that the captains, they have no questions to answer. You win the toss, you bat first. The first day for me will be the best day for batting. And as time goes on, well, warm conditions, the ball's going to turn. You're going to have uneven bounce. So keep it simple. Try and get ahead of the game as soon as you can. And that's by winning the toss and applying yourself and get those runs on the board so that the spinners or even your seamers can come into it later on.
Okay, yeah. You always talk about dry pitches here, slow turners. It doesn't rip, and it's not a Bunsen burner to speak of, but it's a challenge, isn't it, for South Africa to turn up here?
It is. You sometimes talk about pitches and you say, okay, well, there's three options. You don't ever find a seamer-friendly option here. It's a batting-friendly option and a spinner-friendly option, and I think that's what we're going to experience as this test match goes on. The sea breeze does help the seamers just a touch, but I think also for the spinners it allows them to get some drift. So I think we'll see Herath in particular operating from the fort end, and getting the ball to swing into the right-handers or drift into the right-handers, and then there will be some purchase from him. And particularly there's a little bit of a 2-meter gap or a little patch outside the off stump there that as the game goes on, I think that's going to wear and tear a lot more, and he's going to play a huge part. So the spinner's definitely a part to play. Also, how will Keshav Maharaj go? First experience on the subcontinent. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does.
Let's find out then what happened at the toss not too long ago. The captains were out there with Russell Arnold.
It's time to get the series underway, and it usually starts with the toss. With me out here, captaining Sri Lanka today, Suranga Lakmal. South Africa's captain, Faf du Plessis, and West Indian legend, Richie Richardson. He's our ICC match official for this test match. Suranga Lakmal will spin the coin. Tails is the call.
Heads it is.
It's a head. So Suranga Lakmal wins the toss. What will you be doing, Suranga?
Richardson is a bat first.
What about your team? Any team news?
Yeah, his team is Angelo and Rangana Herath coming. His Chandimal is not playing today.
What about the combination? Fast bowlers, how many spinners?
Yeah, I'm combination 3 spinners as 1 fast bowler.
Okay, good luck. Have a good one. I'm thinking you would have batted first as well, Faf.
I think that's pretty standard over here. It looks pretty dry, the wicket. But in saying that, there's a bit of overhead conditions, so hopefully we can get a swing in that first 10 overs.
What about your combination?
We've gone with 2 spinners and 3 seamers, so that obviously means we're playing 6 batters, and then the all-rounders chipping in at the end there.
Preparation gone well?
Very well, actually. The guys trained really well in the build-up to this series in our off-season, and then also the first week here we trained really, really hard. So the last 2 days it rained, but our prep was already done before that, so the guys are looking forward to it. It will be a tough challenge.
What's the main focus? You've played a lot of cricket over the past, good results, but in different conditions.
Yeah, the focus is obviously trying to win games of cricket away from your own home conditions. That's where you get tested. So that's a thing that we're looking forward as a team. We like testing ourselves, and this is going to be a good test, so we're looking forward to it.
All the best.
Thank you.
Well, the news from the centre is that Sri Lanka have won the toss, and they will be having a hit first.
Angry seas, those, actually, it looks like. But there's a look at Sri Lanka's side. And Sean, as you look at that, Herath is always a threat, but they've got to put runs on the board. And I guess you look at Kusal Mendes, and Russell Arnold has spoken highly of him.
Yeah, well, missing Chandimal, obviously those young guys have to step up. We saw them in South Africa, different conditions, and they didn't really go all that well. But they played superbly, the batsmen in that middle order, in order to beat Australia here in the series. So they're going to have to expect some more of the same. Sandakan, I'm excited to see how he goes. In South Africa, it didn't really turn. But he should get conditions to really back up Herath and help him perform well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting as well to see how Lakmal goes, having to captain and be a frontline bowler. Look at South Africa's side. Normally 7 batsmen. This time around, the 2 spinners in, keeping those 3 seamers, but having 6.
I suppose the decision of AB to retire has made life easier. There might have been a bit of a decision of whether you go with the 7th, but those 6 and having Quinton at number 6, it gives them the extra bowling options, parts to be played by Philander and Maharaj to contribute with the bat. And they've got all the bowling bases covered with the 3 seamers and 2 spinners. And I think reverse swing will play a part. Vernon with the new ball in particular should be a handful. And then you've got the speed of Rabada and Steyn once that ball starts to reverse to back up the spinners. But interesting to see how Shamsi goes. Second test for him and a big ask.
Yeah, a second debut, some said, for him.
You could say so.
You could say, yeah. Do you think so? Do you think you kind of has to put the other one out of the mind because it was a day-night test as well?
Yes, he does. He has to put it out of his mind, and I think he's grown in stature. He started to play some more games in the one-day format. He's grown a little bit in confidence, and he's done a few more T20 competitions and mixed with the big boys of international cricket and started to find his feet. And he's bowled well in the warm-up game, picking up 5 wickets in the practice game. So he should be feeling confident, but it's still getting out there and doing it at the test level.
Faf du Plessis said, oh, I guess this is the script, you know, in terms of the tosses won here and you bat. Does that therefore mean there's a disadvantage for South Africa as they turn up here? Because you go back to the test match they won. I think Hashim Amla's first test match as captain in his tenure, and they won that game. Does that play in their mind somewhat?
I've been through that sinking feeling. It was my first test match as captain of South Africa. Yeah, I lost the toss. We had to bowl first. So I know the feeling that he's going through. Obviously, the conditions are best for batting on day one. But South Africa do have to believe, okay, hold on, if we can make early inroads, if our spinners can play the part, we can get them out for something cheap. It'll still be good for batting on day 2 and 3. And that's where we need to make a really big score. But there's no doubt the advantage goes to Sri Lanka. Winning the toss, best of the batting conditions, and the surface will break up. If they bat properly and get the South Africans to bat later on day 4 and 5, it'll be definitely to their advantage.
It does give something away, though, if the opposition or the home side, as it were, goes with a combination of 3 and 1. Normally, when we say 3 and 1, it'll be 3 seamers and a spinner. This way, it's the other way around: 3 spinners and 1 seamer, Sean.
It is. It's a brave call in many ways. I mean, I don't know if there's a part-time seamer who can maybe bowl 2
Angelo
or 3.
Matthews, I don't know if he will bowl, but
he hasn't
you know.
bowled at all. He's just been with his back issue. He hasn't bowled. So I don't know if he can maybe give us 5 overs up front with that new ball so they can start and see if they get the ball to shape around. But it is a big call and interesting to see how things go if they had lost the toss and had to bowl for it, which they don't have to go through. I think it will turn from probably day 1, and that's what they're counting on. That's why they've gone for the 3.
Otis Gibson, though, says we've won games with seamers, and therefore that's where we're going to go. That's the way we're going to go.
Indeed. I mean, that's the strength of South Africa and has been. And these guys aren't just seamers who can bowl well in South Africa. They can bowl well in foreign conditions. They can get the ball to reverse. They've got skills. And there's no need picking a spinner if he's just going to do a job. This fast bowlers can do just as good a job as some of the spinners have done in the past.
Okay, just about time for this one to get started. 2 test matches. Well, the first one, day 1, always big. How do they start? We'll find out in not too long from now. Time, though, for the national anthems.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthems.
Sri Lanka Mata, Sri Lanka, Namo, 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 Namo Mata. Sundar Sri Parini, Surani Ati Sugamana Lanka. Anya Nalaya Nityaman Palaguru Pi Jaya Bhumi Ranga. Apahat Sapasiri Setta Sadhana, Jeevana Ye Mata. Dili Danu Mena Apahati Puja, Namo Namo Mata. Apa Sri Lanka, Namo Namo, Namo Namo Mata. Sri Lanka, Namo, 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 Mata.
Thank you, thank you. The news from the center, Sri Lanka have...
So very good morning from Galle. First day of the first test between Sri Lanka and South Africa. The news is that Sri Lanka have won the toss and have had no hesitation in batting first. South Africa, though, plenty of experience. It's a quality team that has come across to the island. Wonderful results behind them. But of course, you have to keep in mind that it's in different conditions. Alongside me, Sean Pollock will come to Sri Lanka. Polly?
Yeah, thanks, Russ. Great to be here. The South Africans have got you prepared for about 8 days before the start of this test match. Faf du Plessis realises it's a big job ahead of them. The conditions will not suit his players as they used to in South Africa. But they've picked an experienced team. And they've gone the option of the three-seamers. Dalstein back in the mix. He's played some county cricket and had 2 first-class games under his belt. Picked up a fifer in one of those games. So it's nice to have him back in the mix. And South Africans opting to go with the 2-spin option on a surface that should aid the spinners as the game goes on.
I like the combination. It is a positive outlook that you're looking to use your strength, that's the seamers, and then have the backup of the spinners.